There's an unopened bottle of wine still sitting on our dining table. The kind she used to love, sweet, red, overpriced. I bought it 6 weeks ago. Not for an anniversary. Not for a date night. Just because I thought maybe if I set the mood, lit a candle, made her favorite pasta, she'd smile. She didn't even notice it. She walked right past it, phone in hand, humming to herself like she lived alone. I've stopped touching the bottle. I just leave it there, like a monument to a marriage that no longer breathes. I know this sounds pathetic. I know I sound pathetic. But I think there's a particular kind of pain that comes not from betrayal, but from slow, silent erasure. When someone doesn't leave you, they just stop showing up. She didn't scream at me. She didn't cheat, at least not yet. She just disappeared while still being in the house. Started with her phone always face down. Then the earbuds always in. Then came the phrases. I'm not in the mood. I'm just tired. Can we not do this right now? We haven't touched in months. I can't remember the last time she reached for my hand in public, or looked at me with anything but mild irritation. I asked her once if she was okay. She said, I'm fine, Emmett. You're just overly sensitive these days. That's my name, Emmett. I don't like it much anymore. Not because of how it sounds, but because of how she says it. I'm the guy who waters her plants when she forgets, who makes sure her car has gas, who lies awake when she's out late, working on her project, and says nothing when she comes home 2 hours after the restaurant closed. I'm the guy who funds her lifestyle while being treated like a roommate she's barely tolerating. And yet, I stayed, for far too long, until last Tuesday. That was the night I came home early. She didn't expect me. I walked through the door, and she was on a video call. She didn't hear me at first. I stood in the hallway and listened. She was laughing like she hadn't in years. And then she said it. He's more like a sponsor than a husband at this point. I felt it like a punch in the ribs. I didn't say a word. I just turned around, walked back out, and sat in my car for 2 hours, hands shaking on the steering wheel. The next morning, I got up before her. I packed a bag, called a lawyer, and by noon, I had cut off every financial connection we had. Credit cards, closed. Shared account, emptied into a new one. Auto payments, canceled. I left her a note, not cruel, just honest. You stopped being a wife, so I stopped being your provider. I wish you the best. That was 5 days ago. Since then, I've received 37 texts, 11 missed calls, and a 3-paragraph email titled, Can we talk? Now she wants me back. But this time, she's not chasing a husband. She's chasing a lifeline she thought she could insult without consequence. I'm still figuring out what to do next. But if you think that was the end, oh no. It was just the trigger. Wait until you hear what happened when she tried to explain herself to my sister. It's in part 2. And it's wild. I didn't expect her to notice right away. I genuinely thought she wouldn't even realize the accounts were frozen until days later. But I underestimated just how quickly someone panics when comfort is interrupted. By noon that day, she had called me 3 times. I let them ring out. At 2:18 p.m. She sent a voice message I still haven't listened to. But it was at 4:07 p.m. that the fire really started, when she decided to show up at my sister Lorraine's place unannounced. Lorraine's my younger sister by 4 years, and the only person in my life who never once told me to man up when I cried after Mom died. She's fierce, direct, and doesn't pretend to like people she doesn't. She and Rowena were never close. Civil, sure, polite during holidays. But I always saw Lorraine's jaw tighten when Rowena spoke in that condescending tone she used with waiters and cashiers. So imagine my surprise when Lorraine texted me, Your wife is at my door. Says she needs to talk. Says it's urgent. Want me to slap her or listen? I responded, Please don't slap anyone. Just tell her I need space. 20 minutes later, Lorraine called me. Her voice was calm, too calm. She cried, Emmett. Real tears. The whole, I made a mistake performance. Said she's confused and scared. Then she said, and I quote, I didn't realize how much he was doing for me until he stopped. I waited. Lorraine continued. Then she tried to say you've been emotionally distant for years and she felt alone in the marriage. Said she found connection in her writing group. Said it wasn't physical, just emotional. And Emmett. She paused. She said she thought you knew. That you just keep tolerating it. That line hit harder than all the rest. She thought I knew. As if I was some appliance in the corner of the house running quietly and mindlessly existing to serve. I pulled over. My hands were shaking again like they had that night in the car. Lorraine must have sensed it. She wants to talk to you. I told her you'd reach out if you were ready. I also told her to delete that guy's number and give you actual honesty for once in her life if she wants even a shot at closure. I didn't answer. I just mumbled something like thanks and hung up. That night, my apartment felt impossibly quiet. I opened my laptop and stared at the cursor blinking in an empty email draft. I wanted to scream. To tell her every small way she broke me, every insult dressed up as feedback, every time she rolled her eyes when I brought her flowers, every Thursday I sat awake imagining her with someone else while pretending I was okay. But instead, I shut the laptop. And then came the knock. It was close to midnight. I thought maybe I was imagining it, some sound from a neighbor's door. But no. The knock came again, soft but deliberate. I opened the door and there she was. In her oversized sweater, arms crossed, eyes red. Her makeup was smudged like she'd wiped away tears but left the guilt behind. She didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me like she was studying my face for something familiar. Something she lost. I didn't mean to hurt you, she finally whispered. I was just lost. I didn't move. Didn't invite her in. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't forget what she said on that video call. He's more like a sponsor than a husband. That sentence echoed louder than her apology ever could. I told her I needed time. Real time. Not a weekend. Not a chat. Time. She nodded, then asked the one thing I didn't expect. Did you stop loving me? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say it so badly. But my silence must have said enough. She walked away without waiting for an answer. And that should have been the end of it. But what I didn't know, what I was completely unprepared for, was that someone else had heard the call too. Someone who recorded it. Someone who decided to send it to me. And what the recording revealed. It changed everything. The file was titled simply, "You should hear this." No name. No context. Just an anonymous email with an audio attachment and a 3-word subject line sitting in my inbox like a loaded weapon. At first, I hovered over the trash icon. I was afraid it would be her. Afraid it would be a recording of Rowena crying or trying to manipulate me again. But something about it felt different. This wasn't her style. She loved drama, sure, but calculated drama. Not anonymous bombs dropped without warning. So I hit play. It was her voice, all right, soft, confident, dangerously casual. She was mid-conversation, laughing. I could hear dishes clinking in the background like they were at some cafe or someone's kitchen. Then a man's voice joined in. Not familiar. Younger. Smug. So what does he actually think you do on Thursdays? Rowena chuckled, then dropped the dagger. He thinks it's a workshop. Honestly, Emmett would believe anything. He's the kind of guy who apologizes if you bump into him. Sweet, harmless. The type who pays your bills just to keep the illusion going. The guy laughed. So, when are you going to cut the cord? Her voice dropped. I could hear the smirk. Why would I? He's still paying the rent, utilities, even my student loans. I don't even need to sleep with him anymore. It's like having a subscription I never use but still benefit from. My entire body went cold. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just numb. I paused the audio halfway. I couldn't bear the rest yet. I sat there in the dark with my laptop screen glowing, and I felt this eerie calm settle over me like when a room is too quiet after an argument. She really said that. She meant it. All the little things I'd convinced myself were just emotional distance, they weren't symptoms. They were choices. Intentional, strategic, ugly choices. I forwarded the file to my lawyer. No explanation. Just the audio. Then I listened to the second half. It got worse. She told the guy, whoever he was, that she'd been planning to eventually phase me out. Those were her words. Phase him out like a fading subscription. Maybe let him think it's mutual. I mean, I don't hate him. I just don't respect him. I think that was the first time I truly felt something break in me. Not a crack. A full collapse. All the sleepless nights, the ignored calls, the pathetic little gestures I made hoping she'd notice, she saw all of that and felt nothing but disdain. I was a joke to her. A bank account with feelings she no longer cared about. I sat in that chair for what felt like hours. Just breathing. Thinking. Remembering. I remembered the time I stayed up all night building her website when her freelancer quit. I remembered the time I covered for her when her mom called and she didn't want to talk. I remembered how I defended her when my friends said she was too sharp or a bit cold. How I told them they didn't understand her the way I did. And now I realize I didn't understand her either. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I got up, shaved, ironed a shirt, and went into work like nothing had happened. Because I knew the version of myself I was before that email? He was gone. That afternoon, I got a text from Rowena, "Can we talk tonight? I miss you." I didn't respond. She followed up an hour later, "I've been thinking about us. I'm sorry for the distance. I want to fix this." I stared at the screen for a long time, wondering how many times I'd dreamed of her saying those words. And how, now that she had, they meant absolutely nothing. But I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I made a decision. I called someone else, someone I hadn't spoken to in almost a year. And that conversation? That one flipped the entire situation on its head. Because it turned out I wasn't the only one she'd phased out. And what I found out next shook the foundation of everything I thought I knew about my own marriage. Her text sat on my phone like it was daring me to believe her. "I miss you. I want to fix this." I didn't reply. Not because I was being cruel, but because something inside me had shifted. Her words no longer carried weight. They felt like performance lines from a bad script, recycled and forced, as if she suddenly remembered I wasn't just her safety net, I was a person. But as I stared at that message, one name kept echoing in my mind: Caleb. The guy from the workshop. The same voice in the recording. The same guy she told was better conversation than me. I had no face to match it to, no last name, but my brain wouldn't let it go. I needed to know who this person was, not for revenge, not to confront him, but to understand just how far she had taken this alternate life of hers. So I called Evan. Evan is an old friend, not close anymore, but still friendly. He's a writing professor at the same community college where Rowena said she was coordinating a weekly fiction group. We hadn't talked much over the past year because, frankly, Rowena didn't like him. She said he was judgmental and gossipy. Translation: Evan saw through her. When I called, he picked up on the second ring. "Wow. Emmett? Haven't heard your voice in a minute." I jumped straight in, awkwardly. "Hey, weird question, but do you know someone named Caleb who teaches or hangs out in the writing department?" His voice hesitated just long enough to confirm my gut instinct was right. "Oh, man." He sighed heavily. "Yeah. Caleb Rhodes. Adjunct. Teaches creative nonfiction." "Why?" My chest tightened. Was he involved in the Thursday workshops? Silence again. Then Evan spoke slower this time, like he was carefully choosing each word. "He was. But Emmett, listen. I wasn't going to say anything because it's not my place. But I saw them together a few times. Late. Flirty. I thought maybe you knew. Honestly, most of us did." I sat down. It felt like my legs had evaporated. "You're saying most people saw something between them?" "I'm saying your wife wasn't exactly subtle," he replied. "I mean, we're talking shoulder touches, shared car rides, inside jokes, that whole performative intimacy thing." I assumed it was open. Or at least, not entirely secret. Not entirely secret. The way Evan said it, like it was just a sad fact, like I was the last person to catch on, made me feel sick. She hadn't just hidden it from me. She had lived it publicly without fear because she knew I wouldn't notice. Because she had fully embraced the idea that I was harmless. Toothless. Emotionally declawed. I thanked Evan and hung up. Then I did what I told myself I wouldn't do. I searched Caleb Rhodes on social media. And there he was. Leather jackets, smug grin, long captions filled with fake deep quotes like, "We only regret the chances we didn't take." He looked like a motivational speaker who'd gotten rejected from TEDx. His latest post was from 2 weeks ago. A photo of an empty wine glass and a woman's hand, no face, just a hand with dark red nail polish holding the stem. I didn't have to zoom in to recognize the gold ring she'd stopped wearing last spring. It was her. Her hand. The caption read, "Creativity is born in shared silence." I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. I closed the app, put my phone down, and stared at the ceiling. For years, I had blamed myself for every crack in our marriage. I thought if I just worked harder, loved deeper, sacrificed more, she'd come back. But now I saw the truth. She hadn't just given up on us. She had replaced us. And yet, she still wanted the support. The safety. The structure I gave her. She wanted her freedom and my wallet. Her ego stroked by him and her bills paid by me. But I was done playing that role. I wasn't going to be the quiet, compliant husband anymore. The next day, I met with my lawyer in person. We discussed every detail. The accounts. The lease. The legal protections. He even asked me a hard question: "Do you want to pursue any evidence of infidelity?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Because part of me wasn't sure what I wanted anymore. Justice? Closure? Or just silence? That evening I got one more message from Rowena. It said, "I'm coming by. I need to explain everything face to face. Please don't shut me out." I should have said no. But part of me, the weak, trembling part that still hoped for a shred of dignity from her, wanted to hear what she'd say when she realized I already knew. So I left the door unlocked. And what happened when she walked in? Let's just say she came prepared with lies, but left with a truth she never expected me to throw in her face. She didn't knock. She just opened the door like she still lived there. Like nothing had changed. She walked in wearing that same wool coat she always threw on when she wanted to look effortlessly put together, like she hadn't just shattered my trust and tried to patch it with a few empty sentences over text. Her eyes scanned the living room and paused when they landed on me sitting on the couch, laptop closed, waiting. There was no warmth in me anymore. No heartbreak. Just silence. Controlled, concentrated silence. She gave a soft smile, the kind she used when she wanted to de-escalate. The one she used on parking officers and rude cashiers. "Hey," she said like she was addressing a neighbor, not her husband of 9 years. I didn't reply. She sat down in the armchair across from me and took a deep breath, like she was preparing for a stage monologue. "I know you're hurt," she began. "And I know I've been distant. And I haven't been as open as I should have. But I just want to be honest now, okay?" I didn't move. Just nodded once, slowly. She took it as encouragement. I think we got comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. We stopped connecting. And I let that go on for too long. I started spending time at the workshop because I felt seen. Not loved, not the way you loved me, but acknowledged. I never meant to replace you. Still, I didn't speak. She leaned forward now, hands clasped, the way she always did when trying to appear vulnerable. "It never got physical," she added quickly. "Not with Caleb. I swear. It was just emotional. Just friendship that maybe blurred the lines. I didn't cheat, Emmett." And that's when I finally opened my mouth. "Did you listen to the recording?" Her face drained. Instantly. The blood left her cheeks like I'd yanked the floor from under her. She blinked. "What?" I stood up slowly, walked to the dining table, picked up my phone, and tapped play. Her voice filled the room again, only this time it echoed off the walls. The same laughter. The same cruel words. "He's more like a sponsor than a husband at this point. Why would I cut him off? He's still paying the rent, utilities, even my student loans." She stood to now. "Emmett, wait, it's like having a subscription I never use but still benefit from." I hit pause. "You said that," I whispered. "You said I was a subscription." Her mouth opened but no words came out. And I didn't let her find any. "I've given you everything," I said, finally breaking my composure. My voice cracked, not with anger, but with betrayal. "I built your website. I covered your bills. I defended you when people warned me you were cold. I believed in you even when you treated me like a stray dog begging for scraps. And you stood in someone else's kitchen and made a joke out of my entire existence." She took a step toward me, but I stepped back. "It wasn't just emotional," I continued. "You performed your betrayal. You told a man how easy it was to manipulate me. You said you didn't even have to sleep with me anymore. And now you're here. What, to apologize? To gaslight me into thinking this was just a misstep?" I panicked, she said, her voice shaking. "That call, that conversation, it wasn't meant to be serious. I was venting. Caleb was pushing and I just said stupid things. Please, Emmett. I didn't mean all of it. But you meant some of it," I snapped. She froze. Because she knew she had. There was a long pause then. Just the two of us breathing in a room that no longer felt like home. She looked around like she was realizing that for the first time. That I wasn't just angry, I was done. "I'll move out," she said quietly. "If that's what you want. I thought maybe we could, fix this." I cut in. "You broke something that doesn't glue back together with words. And for the record, I would have forgiven emotional distance. I would have forgiven even cheating if it came from pain. But what I heard on that recording wasn't pain. It was mockery. You didn't just drift away, you dismantled me." She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just nodded once, picked up her purse, and walked to the door. But right before she left, she turned around one last time. "I hope someday you remember that I loved you once." And with that, she was gone. I stood there for a long time. Not sad. Not relieved. Just hollow. But the next day, something unexpected happened. Someone else reached out to me. Someone I didn't expect. And what they said, it rewrote the final chapter one thought had just been closed. Because it turns out Rowena had secrets even she didn't realize had been witnessed. The house was quiet the next morning. I hadn't touched a thing since Rowena left the night before. Her perfume still lingered faintly in the air like a ghost trying to stay relevant. The living room was untouched as if it were holding its breath with me. I couldn't sleep that night. I didn't cry either. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I just sat there, replaying the conversation, her facial expressions, the recording, and the sound of the door clicking shut behind her. Final, but not satisfying. I made coffee around 6. Not because I wanted it. Just because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. The morning news played in the background, but I didn't absorb any of it. That was when my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. Usually I wouldn't answer, but something nudged me to pick it up. Hello? There was a pause. Then a voice, soft, slightly shaky. Hi, Emmett? This is Aaron. I hope this isn't too weird. I'm Caleb's ex. I nearly dropped the mug. I know this is out of the blue, she rushed, but I've been meaning to contact you. I wasn't sure if I should, but I saw your name come up in a message. And well, I know what Rowena said about you. There was a buzzing in my ears now. A pressure building behind my eyes. I don't understand, I said. Why are you calling me? She took a breath, clearly weighing her words. Because Rowena didn't just lie to you. She lied to everyone, including Caleb. And me. I leaned against the kitchen counter, bracing myself. She told Caleb you were a controlling husband, Aaron continued. That you limited her freedom. That you were insecure and jealous. She told him she was trying to get out, but you were financially manipulative, that you used money to control her. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so wildly, absurdly upside down. Me? Controlling? I built her boutique, funded her every whim, and slept on a metaphorical couch in my own marriage just to avoid rocking her boat. She said all that? I asked, my voice quieter than I expected. Yes. But it got worse. Because Caleb believed her. And he bragged about saving her from a toxic marriage. He even told me that he was the reason she was finally gaining confidence again. Now it made sense, the arrogance, the boldness of their public display. They genuinely thought I was the bad guy. That I was too dull or rigid or weak to do anything. Aaron sighed again. She played both sides. Told Caleb she was miserable with you. Told you nothing was wrong and gaslight you when you noticed the distance. And when she found out he was also messaging other women, including me again, she still stayed. She still covered for him. But now? She's trying to spin it like she was never really involved with him at all. I closed my eyes. Of course she was. Because Rowena didn't just lie to protect herself. She lied to rewrite herself, a character in a drama where she was the misunderstood heroine and I was the sad, obsessive husband holding her back. Why are you telling me all this? I finally asked. Because someone needs to. Because you didn't deserve what happened. And because if she tries to come back now and she'll bring a new version of the story. One where she's the victim. I just thought, maybe you deserve the full picture before that happens. I thanked her. Not just politely. Sincerely. Aaron didn't owe me anything. She didn't have to reach out. But she did, and it gave me something I didn't even realize I needed, confirmation. Proof that I wasn't crazy. That my instincts were right. That the loneliness, the silence, the subtle dismissals, they were calculated. Part of a narrative she'd built for herself that conveniently erased me as a real person with real value. And Aaron was right. Later that night, Rowena texted again. This time, it wasn't soft or apologetic. It was colder. Measured. I think we should talk about splitting the accounts fairly. And the lease. I don't want things to get messy. There it was, the shift. No more, I miss you. No more, let's talk. Now it was strategy. Damage control. Financial recalibration. Because she knew I had changed the script. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't playing the game anymore. I forwarded the text to my lawyer and told him to handle all future contact. And then, for the first time in years, I took my phone off silent. It rang 2 hours later. It wasn't Rowena. It was someone from her past. Someone she had burned long before me. Someone with receipts, literal receipts, and a reason to speak now that she realized Rowena wasn't bulletproof anymore. What this person showed me made me see Rowena in a completely new light and not in the way she hoped. What they revealed. The caller's name was Carson. I hadn't heard it in years. The last time his name came up, Rowena rolled her eyes so hard I thought she'd sprained something. That guy's a leech, she said once after hanging up on one of his calls. Always trying to pull people into his schemes. I told him I was done years ago. So when I saw his name flash on my screen, I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won out. Emmett? The voice was low and cautious, like he wasn't sure I'd even remember him. Yeah, who is this? It's Carson. From back in the Westlake startup days. I was on Rowena's team. I know this is sudden, but I think we need to talk. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I'm not calling to cause drama, he said. I saw your name on a legal notice that passed through our old shared directory. Apparently she's trying to shut down a few things tied to her old business. And she's dragging your name through the mud to do it. Now he had my full attention. Carson explained that he had been one of Rowena's partners back when she launched her first boutique. The one before the one I helped build. The one she always said failed because of bad marketing. Turns out that wasn't the full story. She borrowed money from a few of us. Told us she had a silent investor, I'm assuming that was you, and that once her personal situation was stable we'd all get a return. But when things got tight she ghosted us. Deleted shared drives. Blocked emails. She even changed her name on a few vendor contracts to avoid being contacted. My pulse was pounding. She told me she took care of all of that, I said slowly. That it was all closed before we got married. Carson sighed. It wasn't. And now that she's trying to liquidate certain assets tied to that business, some of the names she used, including mine, are popping back up. Then he paused. Listen, I don't need money back. It's been too long. I just thought you should know, she has a pattern. She uses people until they stop being useful. Then she rewrites history. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. My brain was buzzing, trying to piece together a timeline that suddenly made a lot more sense. The workshop. The lies. The deliberate erosion of our intimacy. This wasn't a single betrayal. It was a system she operated in. Get support, stretch it thin, then walk away, clean hands, wounded victims. Carson emailed me everything. Screenshots of invoices she never paid. Notes from vendor meetings where she claimed personal legal barriers prevented her from naming her silent backers. Even a transcript from a customer complaint where she blamed a shipment failure on a technical partner's incompetence, and that partner had been me. She used my name. Blamed me for a refund request over $1,000. I never even knew it happened. I sat there stunned. Not just by her deceit, but by how confidently she had framed me as the fallback guy. The problem. The boring one. The overreactor. I wasn't just unaware, I was deliberately kept unaware because she needed me blind, compliant, and writing checks. Later that night, I opened a drawer I hadn't touched in months, the one with our wedding photo. It was from the day we eloped in Vermont. She wore that green dress I always said made her look like someone out of a dream. I used to think her smile in that photo was the most genuine thing I'd ever seen. But now? I couldn't look at it the same way. That's when I made the final decision. I was done grieving. Done wondering what part of her was real. She had made a career out of turning people into disposable scaffolding, and I had been the most stable beam in her entire structure. Not anymore. I called my lawyer and gave him permission to release the recording. Not to the public, but to the arbitrators involved in her ongoing business mediation. It was relevant now. Proof of intent. Proof of manipulation. She might have dodged legal consequences in the past, but this time her voice would do the damage she never expected. I didn't gloat. I didn't announce it. I simply let the truth walk in through the same doors her lies once crept through. The fallout? Well, that arrived 2 days later, wrapped in a knock at my door, and a woman I hadn't seen in almost a decade, someone Rowena never wanted me to meet again. Because this woman had been the first to call Rowena out long before I even entered her life. And what she said in that kitchen. It flipped everything I believed about how this all started. The woman at my door looked older than I remembered, but her eyes were the same, sharp, knowing, and just a little too good at seeing through people. Her name was Mara. She was Rowena's ex-business mentor, the one she'd cut off years ago with no explanation. I'd only met her once, and Rowena never let me forget how negative she thought Mara was. Can I come in? She asked softly, holding a file folder against her chest like it was radioactive. I stepped aside and nodded, still not sure what was happening. She sat at my kitchen table like she'd been there before, took a breath, and laid the folder down. I've stayed quiet for too long, she said. But after hearing what you've been through and what Carson told me, I figured it's time you saw everything she never wanted you to see. Inside the folder were documents. Dozens of them. Handwritten receipts. Contracts Rowena signed under fake names. Even a letter she wrote to a business partner years ago claiming she was being emotionally abused by a previous fiancé, something I now know never existed. She had been playing this role long before me. Always the misunderstood woman, the survivor of invisible monsters, the charming victim with just enough pain in her voice to pull sympathy out of anyone close enough to care. She was always brilliant, Mara said, but dangerously good at storytelling. The problem was she stopped caring if the story was real as long as it made her the center of it. I closed the folder and leaned back, exhausted. But not broken. Not anymore. I believed her, I muttered. For so long. Mara gave a faint smile. That's not your failure, Emmett. That's your strength. You believed in someone completely. The mistake wasn't in loving her. It was in ignoring yourself. Those words stuck with me. Long after she left. Long after I filed away the documents and deleted Rowena's number from my phone for the last time. The next few weeks were quiet. Peaceful. I stayed in my apartment and started picking up the pieces of my life, not by looking backward, but by asking myself something I hadn't in years: what do I want? I started cooking again, not to impress anyone, but because I enjoyed it. I reached out to friends I'd lost touch with, people Rowena had subtly pushed away. I even adopted another dog, a stubborn mutt named Milo, who chews everything and somehow brings me more joy than any romantic gesture ever did. Rowena tried once more. She emailed me a few weeks later. No drama this time. Just a short message. I hope one day you can forgive me. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her. I don't. In fact, I hope she finds peace, real peace, not the kind built on manipulation. But I wasn't going to be her safety net again. I had finally walked out of the role she'd written for me, the quiet provider in the background of her life. Now, I'm the main character in my own story. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I'm okay. Not perfect. Not invincible. But free. And whole. And that is more than I ever thought I'd be again.